As with all of our presentations here at Railroads, it's so important to us to acknowledge the lands that our university rests upon. Railroads University acknowledges that we rest upon the traditional lands of the Cosepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. There has been a long, long history of teaching, learning, and gathering on these lands. So it's with great gratitude that we live, learn, and work on the traditional lands of the Cosepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. So we are here today to talk all things education and technology here at Railroads University. Looking at this slide, you can see we have a whole swack of all-stars ready to tell us more about the wonderful programs that we offer here on our campus. So we will hear from everyone shortly, but I'd love to point out that we have all of our program heads for our graduate programs here, and then a current student or alumni from those programs to share what it's really like being a learner and a graduate here at Railroads. So you've learned just a tiny bit about who we are. So we would love to know a lot more about all of you. So if you feel comfortable, let's take that chat box for a spin. If you click on the chat box button in your black bar, your chat box will appear. Let us know, where are you joining us from today? What sector are you currently in? And if you feel comfortable, what are you hoping to learn from today's webinar? This will help us better understand the types of information we can provide you on today's call. So with the chat box starting to fill with introductions, I'll quickly turn my attention back to our overview to let you know how we're going to spend this hour-ish we have together today. So after we learn a little bit about each other, we're going to head into an overview of the learning and technology programs here at Railroads. Once we hear about our programs, we're going to meet our students. This is where we have some questions submitted by all of you, and we'll go around and chat with these wonderful people. Of course, we will leave time for more questions from our audience. So please, as things come up for you, pop them in the chat box and we'll move through those together. So taking a look at my second monitor, let's see who's with us today. We have folks joining us from Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Victoria, Oakville, Ontario, Port Moody, New Westminster, BC, North Carolina, USA, Langford. Oh, and Madeline is a BAPC RRU grad, so our Bachelor's of Arts in Professional Communication. Very cool to have you today. Welcome. We have representation from Kamloops and Burnaby. So we are spanning all across Canada today, as well as beyond, with some folks joining us from the USA as well. Very cool, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And please continue to pop intros in the chat box, as it's so fun to see who's in the room with us. So with that, let's start hearing about some of the programs we offer. Over to you, Tamara.
Thank you very much, Selena, and welcome everyone. We're absolutely thrilled that you took the time to spend with us today. We know that there are lots of choices out there as you're looking for graduate programming, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to consider Railroads programs, and in particular, those that are offered at the School of Education and Technology. So I am the school director for the School of Education and Technology. I'm also the program head for the Masters of Arts in Higher Education Administration and Leadership. So you can see from the slide in front of you that the Masters is a 2-year program, and under it or within it is a graduate diploma in higher ed, admin, and leadership, which is about the first year of the program, is comprised of the first year of the 2-year program. And then we also have 3 certificates, and each certificate is comprised of 3 courses that are also part of the larger master's program. In a nutshell, the students that are most interested in the higher education admin and leadership suite of programs are folks that are in the higher education sector. So they are either current or aspiring leaders working primarily in the Canadian higher education, but we certainly have had and encourage, welcome wholeheartedly folks from international countries, again, in their higher education areas. So I'll leave it with that. Certainly happy to answer any additional questions as they come up.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Next, we're going to chat about our learning and technology programs. As Tamara mentioned on her slide, this slide provides you with a quick overview of the suite of programs offered in our learning and technology world. So, speaking more specifically about our Master of Arts in Learning and Technology, this program was created as it responds to the demand for qualified professionals who have the knowledge and skills to lead in things like planning, design, development, implementation, evaluation of contemporary learning environments. Graduates of this program end up with the ability to work in the creation and evaluation of digital learning environments and apply theoretical and practical knowledge to critically analyze learning innovations and assess their impact on organizations and society. So, as you can see here, we have our Master of Arts in Learning and Technology, a graduate diploma in Learning and Technology, but then also a graduate diploma in Technology Enhanced Learning and Design, which is comprised of our Instructional Design Certificate. So now let's hear more about our third graduate program here in the School of Education and Technology.
Hi everyone, I'm Frederick Fauvet. I'm the program head for the MELM program. So as you see, the structure is fairly simple for MELM. We have the 2-year master program, and then we also have the diploma, and that mirrors what you see in the other streams as well. The diploma constitutes the first year of the masters. So the same courses really, but it ends and is completed at the halfway point. I've just add as well, we have, as the other 2 streams, we have a thesis route as well. Which means that at the halfway point, students who are qualified for it and interested in the thesis route are able to take their own sort of progress from that point on. In terms of the students that we attract, mostly K-12 teachers who are looking to gain roles as leaders in schools. But I would widen that and say that really the best way to describe the typical profile of MELM students are people who have been mostly grounded in pedagogy and in teaching and in classroom practice, and are looking to change that lens and actually, or increase that lens and look at the leadership role, within their own organization. So we've also had students from other parallel sectors and things particularly of international schools overseas, different roles within schools, language schools as well. But what we like to see demonstrated is a few years experience in the classroom itself, focusing on pedagogy, and open tiers in your career to be shifting to a leadership role. That's it for MELM.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Tamara and Frederick, for telling us much more about the programs that we offer here in the School of Education and Technology. Now we're going to jump into meeting our wonderful students and alumni. So here we have Cassie, Chad, and Sue, who come from their respective programs. And you'll see that we have the little acronym here. So Cassie is from our MELM program. We just heard Frederick chat about that. Chad, our Mallet program, which I chatted about quickly, and Sue, Mahil, which Tamara told us a lot about. So let's tell you a little bit about these wonderful people. I'll kick off by introducing Chad. So Chad has worked in vocational education for the past 11 years. With a passion for student success and open education, Chad strives to bring open pedagogy to trades-based education. Chad is currently the Dean of Trades and Technology at Medicine Hat College and completed a fellowship with BC Campus. The MA in Learning and Technology program has been life-changing and transformational for Chad, and has led to many opportunities and experiences. Welcome, Chad, and I can't wait to talk to you a bit more. So I will pass it over to Tamara to tell us a little bit more about Sue.
Thank you, Selena. Sue is currently a student in the Masters of Arts in Higher Education Administration and Leadership, having started the program last year in the June 2020 cohort. She has a wealth of experience in the higher education sector, just under 2 decades actually, worth of experience. She's currently at the University of Lethbridge and holds the position of Manager of the Scholarships and Student Financial Aid Office. So we are thrilled and very appreciative to have Sue here.
Thanks so much, Tamara, and thank you, Sue. Can't wait to hear more from you. So I'll pass it over to Frederick to introduce Cassie.
And so Cassie is in her last course in the MELM program. She's in a capstone project in the EDLM 610. She's actually in one of my courses, so we'll see you later at 6, Cassie. And I'm just going to read your bio. So Cassie started as a social studies teacher and out of a BA program at UBC. Cassie went to Shenzhen, China to teach English with the Richmond School District. After 3 years in Shenzhen, Cassie came back to the Lower Mainland and began teaching English and social studies at St. Thomas More Collegiate, an independent school in Burnaby, in BC. With 9 years of teaching experience, Cassie is now in the 6th year at St. Thomas More Collegiate, and Cassie is currently teaching English and social studies, while also holding the position of Director of Student Life, overseeing much of the school's extracurricular programs.
Amazing. Thanks, Frederick. And thank you, Cassie. I love that you guys will be meeting again later today for some class time. So here's some of the most pressing questions that came up from our registrants today. These are some of the things that you are all excited to learn about. So I'll just do a quick read through those. What was the most surprising and meaningful part of our learners' experience? How has the program impacted their professional or personal growth? How did they decide this program was right for them? And what would they recommend to anyone considering the program right now? So let's dive in and get started. Chad, would you like to tell us a little bit about what was the most surprising or meaningful part of your experience in the Mallet program?
Definitely. I mean, there's so much that I could definitely speak a lot on what the most meaningful parts were, because there were just so many meaningful parts that occurred through this whole process. But I'd say the most meaningful part, one of the most surprising parts to me, was the connections that I made with other people. And I went through the program on the fully online, so I didn't do a residency. It was completely online the whole time. And going into it, I honestly thought it was going to be more of an asynchronous, I'll get my assignments, I'll do my readings, I'll watch some videos, I'll do some writings. And the interactivity, the way that the course is designed, absolutely blew my mind. And it just showed how interactive, the way they've got it designed for relationship building and teams. I've got really, really, really close friends now that we've been like super close friends and there's one actually we were texting the other day who lives in Victoria. I've never met face to face. I've got another one who I've met a couple times out in Ontario just through some work contacts that I ended up getting from being in the Mallet program. So yeah, I was really surprised at the intentionality and the interactivity and the relationship building that was part of the program. And it's gone on, like, not only are they relationships and friendships, but we're also part of each other's professional networks. So if I have any questions at all, I know I can go to Brandon and I can ask him a question, or Christy, I can ask her a question. Danielle's always there. So it's nice to have that there.
Very cool, Chad. Thank you. And we get that a lot. Sometimes there's that, correspondence learning versus online learning. And what does that mean? So thanks so much for touching on what online learning looks like at Rural Roads. So Cassie, over to you. What was maybe your most surprising or meaningful part of your experience so far in the MELM program?
I definitely love the residency. I think Chad kind of stole my answer. I love the residency because, again, the same thing. Through that, you're kind of working with people at a very fast pace. So you're in the residency for 2 weeks, and then you're just working, and everybody else around you are your closest allies. So you're all working together on your group projects and your individual projects, and it really does inform your own concept of leadership and your own concept of pedagogy when you're basically on the same level with everybody for 2 weeks and you're just surrounded with one another for 2 weeks. So that was a really interesting way of learning for me. And then you form relationships with those people that go beyond pedagogy, that go beyond leadership in the schools. And, you know, even as we're on the tail end now, we're all trying to recruit one another to get into each other's schools and programs, because we see the value of, I can work with this person. This person's going to be great for me as a leader. I need this person on my team here. So we're constantly going, oh, what's your, you know, opportunity look like in September? I've got a position here. Do you want to come to Vancouver? Do you want to go to Alberta? And I think one of the cooler things that I've noticed with a lot of us, especially at this tail end, you know, there's people that are applying for vice principal jobs even as they complete their capstone projects now, because they're starting to feel so much confidence at this tail end of it, that they're really seeing themselves in those positions and going for it. And then at a point where people are hesitant, you've got this entire team of people that know your process, that know how far you've gone, and are basically telling you, you have to do this. This is exactly for you. And if not for the job, but for the process of actually saying, yes, I can be a leader. Yes, this is where I can see myself down the line. So I think that's what I've learned and have valued from this program for sure.
Oh, wow, Cassie, you did such an awesome job talking about the power of our cohort. I'm so thrilled that that has been your experience at Rural Roads. There's a lot of intentionality of bringing the professors that we do into the classroom, the learners that we do, and somewhere along the way, all those roles become one. You're learning alongside every single person who's with you. And we have a tagline that kind of makes us giggle in marketing. But we say life dot changing. And we have that dot is the residency period, whether it's online or in person. So it's really cool that that was your experience. Thanks so much for sharing that. So Sue, over to you and the most exciting or surprising experience moving through Mahil.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here today. Nice to see people's faces. I think probably one of the biggest surprises for me, and I won't add on to obviously establishing connections and meeting people, because that's one of my favorite things about it so far, but it's how much I'm loving learning. And I was out of school for 20 some years, so I was really nervous about going into grad school, whether or not I could do it. Imposter syndrome was huge. I just felt like I maybe didn't quite belong, but it's a learning curve, but it's probably been, it's one of the surprising things is how much I'm loving my classes and how applicable it is to my work. And certainly a shocker for me. I love it. Yeah.
That's very fair. You know, we're asking you for 2 years of your time, X amount of hours a week. So for you to be experiencing all that and say, you know, I'm loving it, that's what we want to hear. That's so cool. And I love that you highlighted, you know, in our classrooms, there really isn't that division of theory and practice and one day. You're learning in our classrooms and you're applying immediately into your workplace. So that's really cool that you're feeling that. So heading into our next question, and some of you have touched on it already, so I'll swing back over to you, Chad. How has your program impacted your professional or personal growth?
Yeah, again, I think I could probably take up everybody's time talking about this, but I'll just be concise. I'm sitting here in beautiful Medicine Hat, Alberta, and it's nice to see somebody from Lethbridge here too. So Alberta represents here. They get the wind before we do, so it's always good. I'm sitting in this office as the Dean of Trades and Technology, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this program. I mean, this program helped leverage my skill set, and I was able to do things that I would never have been able to do had I not been involved in the Mallet. I got involved in online education for vocational education before it was a thing, and then COVID happened, and we'd already proven that you could take trades training and put it online when people said it couldn't be done. I could never have been part of that conversation had I not been part of the Mallet program. So it's just been absolutely transformational. I say it all the time, like I'll jump up and down for Rural Roads until my dying breath, because it's just been so great that way. Like I've been able to, and continues to be, right? Like it's not just I wouldn't say that I mean, I've done a lot of hard work, and yes, I did all the hard work to get here, but it was through the support that I got through Railroads as well. And I just want to build like on what Sue was saying just a couple minutes ago. It triggered something in me in the sense that I loved learning. I loved the pedagogy. I came to it as a tradesperson. And so I had a little bit of academia in it. So I was scared to death to be involved in a program where it was going to be a lot of writing. But the support that I had from the library and from the Writing Center and from my instructors and from my fellow classmates was unbelievable. So if you're sitting on the fence thinking I don't belong here, trust me, there's been a lot of us that have gone through these programs who felt the exact same way. So yeah, anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so I'll end it there.
No, Chad, we love it. Thanks so much for all of your sharing. Cassie, over to you.
I think the biggest thing that it did was really put into words and to like practical application what I had been feeling about leadership and how to apply it. I think as a person that's in schools, you start to see things you want to affect in terms of change, or people you want to guide and mentor, and you feel it, but you're not entirely sure how, or you're not entirely sure why that's how you feel. And so when it started to put words, and when I started to see scholars and other writings, and through research trying to figure that part of it out, that my feelings were echoed by people that had actually studied those things, you start to get confidence, and you start to really go, yeah, you know what, I do see myself in this position, and investing time into understanding, why you're feeling this way, or how you can affect change in the best way and the most efficient way possible for your organization and your particular context. I think that's what it did for me.
Very cool, Cassie. Thank you. That reflective piece is very prominent in our programs here, particularly in year one. So thanks for sharing that. Sue, over to you. How has your program impacted your professional or personal growth?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, just the applicability of what I'm learning. So I'm actually sitting in meetings using terminology and theories and models that have been taught to us. It's helped me in my current job, and especially within Alberta, all of the fiscal constraints that are going on. There's a lot of change happening in higher education. So the information isn't just objective. It's very tangible and practical, which really suits my needs, and it's certainly improved what I can contribute at work.
Very cool. Wow. We maybe went a little backwards. We learned about where you guys are now, but the next question is bringing at us to how did you get here? How did you know this program was right for you? How did you know it was the right time? So again, we've touched on it a little bit already, but folks are really eager to hear, how did you get started? So Chad, over to you.
Great question. So I got hired on at BCIT. I was a subject matter expert as an electrician by trade. And when you hire on a BCIT, part of the program is to go through the Provincial Instructors Diploma program. So I went through that course at Vancouver Community College, and I just fell in love with the idea of adult education and pedagogy and adult learning theories. And so it kind of always stuck in the back of my mind that this was something I wanted to pursue more. And then as I started kind of moving through my practice of teaching, I started getting involved more and more in educational technologies, and I fell in love with them. And I thought, this is something I really want to become part of. So I started looking into programs out there that would kind of feed that itch a bit, or scratch that itch. And so Railroads was recommended to me by a few people, and I saw that they had a learning and technologies program. And so I went into it thinking I was going to be taking an ed tech type of degree. And I've now on the other end of it. If you're going into the mallet because you think it's going to be an ed tech degree, you're going into it for the wrong reason. You learn that it's all about I think that's purposeful, that it's learning and technologies and not technologies and learning, because you focus a lot more on the pedagogy. And one thing you learn right away is that technologies are going to change, but the pedagogy and the practice and the care for your students isn't. So we have to kind of frame that with our technologies as well. So yeah, and then so I ended up applying to the mallet program, and like I said, it was a transformational experience.
Very cool, Chad. It's so exciting to hear the origin stories. So over to you, Cassie. Let's hear yours.
For me, I'm super involved in my school community, and the concept of driving out to somewhere and having classes after a long day at work wasn't as appealing as perhaps going through the blended program. But I knew I wanted some sort of classroom experience. And so I thought that the residency plus the online format was exactly what I needed, because then I knew that the relationship and the foundation for relationships would be through the residency. And because you're in the trenches with those people for so long, meeting your professor, we met Frederick there, you build that trust right away and you're collaborating, and then that just carries on to the online format. So for me, it was just a practical thing I needed based on my schedule, my commitments, my lifestyle. And it's worked. It's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you hit the nail right on the head. Here at Railroads, we develop our programs for working professionals, for people exactly like all of you, how to make it work while life is happening. Life doesn't need to stop for this to happen. So I'm glad that it was able to fit that need for you. So Sue, over to you. How'd you get here? How'd you find yourself in Mahil?
A lot of searching online. I actually had been searching for graduate programs for probably a couple of years, and I really wanted to find a right fit because I didn't want to invest the amount of time and energy and money to something that potentially I wouldn't find ultimately engaging or fruitful at the end. And I knew about the Royal Roads Masters of Arts Leadership Program, but as I was starting to look through that, I found Mahil, and is just so applicable to where I'm at and where I want to go as a leader. So one of the things that I did spend time on was really looking at the courses and the course descriptions, and just did it inspire joy, like did it intrigue me, and it did. So and to echo Cassie's point, I mean, I work full time. I was very concerned about how to fit this and integrate it into my life. That was one of my biggest fears starting the program, was how on earth am I going to do this? But the way that it's set up and the supports that are in place to help us working people to adapt to graduate school, it really worked out. It was a great choice for me, and I already said how much I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to start sounding like Chad. I'll talk about how much I love railroads, and I'm not even a year in yet. So
That's awesome, Sue. Thank you. Before we get to our last question, which was your final words, your words of recommendation, your tips and tricks for people who are thinking about applying, a question that came up quite a bit in the registration page was, how did you do it? How did you balance work, family, school, and everything else that's going on at the same time? How did you make this work? So Chad, do you mind if I pass it over to you?
No, not at all. That kind of goes into the tips and tricks. I mean, if you're going into this and you have a family, you have to make sure you got the support of your family, because like I jokingly say to my wife, like, we got this master's degree, because there was lots of times, like, yes, it is designed so that working professionals can get their degrees, but I was getting up at 3:34 in the morning to do my readings, and I would be working on the weekends, and I would be working in the evenings, and there's hockey games that I had to miss. So there is some sacrifice that goes with it. It was worth it. Every second of it was great, but only because I had the full support of my wife. And if you don't have the support of your family, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And so, yeah, that's where that kind of leads into my tips and tricks behind this whole thing. And once you have that and have that support, it's great.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Chad. Cassie, how are you able to find time to integrate Malm into your busy life?
I figured out pretty early on, once we got out of the residency, that our Malm cohort has like a group chat on WhatsApp. So we stay in touch all the time. So that's been the greatest sort of quickly saying, hey, what did you guys think of this? Or when's the collab or whatever. So I know it's been harped on, but really try and develop your relationships with your cohort, because they're going to be your lifesavers and buoys. And, you'll need a stress relief with them a couple times. But the other thing too is stick to a schedule. You need to make a schedule as to when you're going to carve out time for this, because it's really easy to slip if you don't. And I think especially when you're independent and now doing an asynchronous format, you have to make sure that you're kind of fusing it into your habit and your routine. And I was lucky too, same way that Chad had his support of his family. I definitely had support of my family and definitely the support of my workplace as well. Just always, my coworkers were always checking in with me. And so it was almost like peer pressure. Like, how's your master's going? And, you know, you haven't done a reading that week. You're kind of like, yeah, no, it's going well. And you know that you have to, they're checking on me. So it was really cool to have my community really help me.
Oh, I love that, Cassie, the community and all the different people that comprise that. Awesome. Sue, how are you making Mahil work?
I think you get what you put in. So you have to be able to carve out that time to put effort into it, and what you put in, you'll get back. So I'm a single parent. That was one of my biggest concerns, and my job is so busy. I remember even prior to starting my program, I was contacting other Royal Road students, asking them this very question: how did you do it? And there is no real, like, you know, straight answer. Step A is do this, step B is do that. But it is a real steep learning curve on how to read quickly and really decipher what you need to know for specific assignments and stuff like that. And like Cassie said, and Chad was nodding, you will really rely on your classmates to help you through a lot of it, and the people in your life. But it's a commitment. You have to commit and you have to be engaged. Or should be. You should be engaged. You don't have to be. Should be.
I love, there's an option, but there's also a right answer.
Consequences.
You know, we have a great question that was sent to me via private message. Chad, as you've graduated from your program, but Sue and Cassie, if you have any thoughts, please share as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your final project? So whether it was a thesis, a capstone, what was it, and what did you do it on?
I did the thesis track. So I'd always wanted to write. I always wanted to have something published. It was so you go into do a year of the coursework, and then the second year you kind of branch off. And so there was 3 of us that did our thesis together. I did mine on the value of co-creation of open educational resources with trade students and their perspectives. So I had my students at the time creating their own textbooks, their own open textbooks. And it was a fascinating study. That part was the fun part. The maybe not so fun part, well, it was fun. It was just hard work, was the writing part. And so I remember Elizabeth, our program head, she said, it's kind of like having kids. There's times where you're going to be really frustrated and you wonder why you did. And then you're going to, at the end of it, you're going to love it and be so proud of it. And that couldn't sum it up better than that. At the end of it, I've had so much self-pride on that piece of work that I did, because I did work so hard at it. And same with my wife, she's proud of the fact that it happened because she was part of that process as well. Yeah, so I did the thesis track, and I highly recommend it if it's something you're thinking about doing, but keep in mind that it is a lot of work. You're going to be writing a lot, sending it in for revisions, and it's going to come back. And I just learned that, you know, revisions are there for a reason. Like, it's a revision, it's not a failure. And I think that's what I was always worried the first few times I got my revisions back, and it'd be just chock full of comments. And I remember talking to Elizabeth, she's like, no, that's exactly what this whole process is for. This is how you're going to learn it. So those were all great, and I became a much better writer for it, and I think a better educator throughout the whole process.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing what you explored, Chad. Cassie, I see you're unmuted. Let's hear.
I mean, I'm in the process of writing mine right now, and Frederick's knows. I've gone through, I don't know, 2 or 3 iterations of what I'm writing, because it's such a process and you have to be open to change. I think I've changed my research question about 7 times over the last 2.5 months, because you really need, and Chad said it perfectly. If you see your revisions as failure, you don't get it. You haven't bought into the process. You have to make sure that every time somebody's committing to you by writing feedback or by giving you a suggestion, they're committing to you and they care about your process. So don't take it as a negative, and take it as a like push in the right direction. But yeah, I'm doing mine. I'm trying to fuse my social studies brain and global citizenship brain, and with my leadership. So trying to fuse critical pedagogy with servant leadership. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow. Just that little thing, right? No,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. Sue, you're much earlier in your program, so I'm not sure if you've hit this stage yet, but was there anything you wanted to share on this?
No, I don't. I'm listening eagerly to Chad and Cassie, and I'm a little bit frightened of what's ahead, but also excited.
Well, very unintentionally, but beautifully, we found folks who are at very different stages of your journey in this program. So that is really cool. Thank you. I'm just taking a quick peek into one more question, and we've touched on it a little bit already, but I'm not sure if there's anything else you wanted to share about your student experience in the program. We have a question here. Can you tell me about your experience as a student? Chad, maybe I can throw it over to you.
Sure. That's that's such a broad question, because I mean, my experience as a student with, I mean, I can come at it with fellow students was amazing, and we've talked it to death almost about cohorts are important. You have to form relationships. You have to find partners that you're going to work with. Literally, there was times I connected with somebody very early in the program, and there was times where she was going to quit the program, and I talked her off the ledge. And there was times where I was ready to quit the program, and she talked me off the ledge. And that's not even hyperbole. Like, that literally happened. So we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here, and Danielle probably wouldn't be where she is if we hadn't been there for each other. As far as the faculty experience is concerned, that was amazing. Like, I saw, and I think they just modeled care and empathy and everything. I had a situation where I had a medical condition arise halfway through a course, and the instructor, and when I reached out to him, his first concern was that I was okay, and said, don't worry about anything else. I don't want to even see that you've been in the LMS. Like, don't worry about going in the Moodle, just take care of yourself. So, and they were all like that. There were times where our entire cohort felt overwhelmed. So we approached our instructor, and they said, okay, well, let's figure a way around this. And so he ended up having to work with us on something. So very approachable, very, very approachable. And just the experience with the school itself as a whole has just been fantastic. Like, this is my second time doing this, talking to students about that. I love doing this, like I said, because the school has been great to deal with. Like, my program head was amazing and a mentor, and anytime I had to reach out to anybody else within the school, very responsive. It just felt like there was just care. It's like Royal Roads just oozes empathy and care, and I think that kind of flows all the way down to the students, and we all feel it.
Thanks for adding all of that about your student experience, Chad, and for joining us again for chatting all about it. Cassie, was there anything else you wanted to share about your student experience?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the faculty too, because I think we talked about the cohorts a lot, especially, the blended learning thing really came in handy throughout the pandemic. So that was a really good, I don't know, it was just lucky. But the instructors that we had have been so graceful and so wonderful in terms of having patience with us and really guiding us through our process. And I know that, like, I was kind of trying to learn from them and trying to see how, especially during the time of COVID, our cohort luckily had our technology course. And so learning from a person who's actually studied technology and was implementing it, I think half of us basically stole what she was doing in our classes. So it was just great to see experts in their field, but also people that were approachable and, weren't, I don't know, the typical archetype of a doctor, PhD. They were so caring and so wonderful and gentle with us. And they seemed very human despite the amounts of time and research they put into their field. So that was really cool.
That's awesome, Cassie. Thank you for sharing that. Sue, was there anything you wanted to add about your student experience?
Yeah, I think probably because I'm so fresh, right at the beginning, before you start your program, you have to go through a link program, and they show you how to work Moodle, and you have to kind of read through all of the policies and regulations. And for being at a school for so long, that kind of really helped ease at least me into the start of being a student and what that means. So I think that that was really a great introduction to being a student again. And you're not just being thrown out into the middle of an ocean and you can wail about trying to figure out how you're supposed to adapt to the new world you're in, but the faculty has, yeah, I mean, it's just, there's always support there. You just have to be able to ask for it and reach out for it.
Thanks so much, Sue, and for mentioning that link course at the top of a program. You know, we get because that's not a you don't get a grade for that. So folks are always wondering, well, do I really have to do this? What is this? And 9.9 out of 10 times after that, it's like, oh, awesome. Now I know how to navigate my learning platform. Now I know how to access writing services, critical writing, and critical thinking and academic writing. So thanks so much for mentioning that right off the top. Almost all of our programs here at Railroads start with that link course. So I've realized we're sadly coming to a close on our time together today. So let's cap off with the number one question that came in on the registration page. What would you recommend to anyone considering one of these three programs right now? So Chad, over to you.
Yeah, I kind of hit on it a bit with the definitely with the support with family and friends, but I'd also like reach out to other people who've gone through the program. I think if you got into LinkedIn and you kind of looked up Mallet or Mahil or whatever, you find people that are going through these programs. I've answered questions lots of times, people who have jumped in and asked, hey, I noticed you went through the Mallet program, do you have a minute? And because we went through that ourselves with others, I'm willing to do that. So look to see what else is out there, see who else has been in the programs, look up the work. If you're, I mean, I'm not pumping social media, but if you're on Twitter, like start looking, like go hashtag Mallet, hashtag Mahil, you'll start seeing a lot of great connections there and a lot of great work that's being done. So just do a little bit of research.
Absolutely. Very cool, Chad. And on that note, if you ever do want to speak with an alumni from any of these programs, connect with us at learn.more@railroads.ca, and any of our enrollment advisors can help make those connections for you. So Cassie, over to you.
Oh, what would I recommend? I think especially in the mail program or especially in the Mahil, I don't, there was leadership involved, I think. So it's hard. If you really need to reflect on what you believe leadership looks like in your context and really try and make that connection between what your organization may need to grow and what change you want to affect there. And probably in Mallet too, right? Like looking very deeply into where you are and what you feel that organization might need to be able to grow and where you think you fit in that.
That's really cool. Thanks, Cassie. And we get that kind of commentary coming up and showing up in the personal statements. So right off the bat, when people are applying to the program, you can share that in your personal statement with us. And that helps us already be primed to best support you through your journey. So Sue, over to you.
I think one of my biggest recommendations would be to set realistic expectations. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It is going to take effort, and but it's, like I said earlier, you get what you put in. And so I think just doing the research ahead of time to try and prep yourself to what you're going to be getting into is really, really helpful. At least it would be for me. So
That's the perfect dose of tough love, Sue. We get that question a lot, you know, okay, so this is built for working professionals. Okay, that means it's gonna be easy. Oh, that's not what we said. We said it's built for working professionals. So I really appreciate that you share, yeah, be realistic about what's to come and what you're thinking about putting into what's to come. And speaking of what's to come, we have just a few minutes left together today. So I'm going to pop up our last few slides. So bear with me while I have a few clicks here. So hopefully you're seeing our nice slide here, which talks about our upcoming intakes. So for our MA in Educational Leadership and Management, what we've been referring to as MELM throughout the presentation today, our next intake is actually just around the corner, beginning June 14th, 2021. So if you're thinking about starting the program this year, your application deadline is May 14th, 2021. If you're looking at our MA in Higher Education Administration and Leadership, so what we've called our MAHEAL program throughout our session today, it also starts June 14th, 2021, putting you with an application deadline of May 14th, 2021. If you're looking at our MA in Learning and Technology, we've actually moved on to our 2022 intake. So that would begin March 28th, 2022, putting your application deadline December 28th, 2021. If you have any questions about any of these deadlines, please connect with our offices. May 14th feels around the corner, but step one is getting in that online application, and then your portal opens up for sending in some supporting documents. And that's something we're more than happy to help walk you through. So while that slide there talked specifically to our MA programs, this is a quick snapshot of all the different things that you saw earlier. So the different graduate certificates, graduate diplomas, and our MA programs coming together. And you can find information about all of these things on our website, or you can head over to learn.more@rollroads.ca. Our enrollment services teams would be more than happy to answer any questions about the programs we chatted about today or any others on our campus as well. If you're joining us outside of Canada, our international admissions and registration team is more than happy to continue the conversation and making sure it's applicable to you and the country you're currently in. And you can find them at learn.more.international@rollroads.ca. So that has brought us to the end of our session today. I see our chat box has a few things coming up in it, so I'm going to look at my second screen to give these things a quick look. We have Elizabeth who popped in and shared some wonderful links to allow you to better explore our Mallet program. So if you give the link she shared a click, you'll head to the Mallet course site where you can start to explore all the student blogs. We have Christine, one of our wonderful enrollment officers, sharing some contact information and some things that they are regularly helping with. So questions regarding program admissions, requirements, flexible admissions, connecting prospects to our alumni, and all the different ways you connect with them through their emails as well as some phone numbers as well. We have comments from folks in the audience sharing their warm thoughts on joining us today. Thank you so much. Chad, who shared his email in the chat box for anyone who's hoping to connect. We have a great question from Gurjeet. Do these deadlines vary for international students? So no, the program deadlines you saw there, as well as the application deadlines, are for any students looking to enter our programs, though I would recommend connecting with our enrollment team at learn.more.international@rollroads.ca, as they'll help you navigate any questions or things you might have being an international student. Christine very kindly shared the link to the online application portal. Elizabeth shared the Mallet Virtual Symposium link. Thank you, Elizabeth. So the Mallet program has a virtual symposium happening April 12th to 16th, 2021, where folks are invited to come and join and see what the speakers have to say and get a sense of the program and the field. Later on in the chat box, Elizabeth shares the link to the virtual symposium, and I highly recommend giving it a click. This link is very special as it has all of the recordings and information for past sessions as well. So it is a wealth of knowledge for what's happened over the years, and it gives you a peek as to what's to come as well. We had a question from Sashi about what do you mean by flexible admissions? Well, that's a great question. So here at Railroads, we have two admissions pathways, standard admissions and flexible admissions. So standard admissions will generally have a requirement of an academic credential, usually an undergraduate degree in a related or relevant field with a GPA of a B plus. And then depending on programs, there's also some work experience requirements as well. Flipping to flexible admissions. Flexible admissions is for those folks who may not meet the traditional academic requirement, but have had many, many years working in their fields who've gained the expertise that we so value in our classrooms. So, flexible admissions is something that's assessed on a case by case basis where we take a really holistic look at our applicant to better understand your academic background, but also your professional background, your personal background, all the things that have come together to make you you. So if you're interested in learning more about flexible admissions, please connect with learn.more@railroads.ca or learn.more.international@railroads.ca, and our teams would be happy to help you out. Continuing on through our chat box, we have Chad's sharing that the virtual symposium is amazing. It really is. Many words of thanks. We have Gary sharing as a founding president of RRU. I absolutely delighted to listen in today and hear how learners prize their experience at RRU. Thank you so much for being here and your kind words. I know I'm now feeling very, very proud. So thank you. And then Christine with one more throw to our learn.more.international for folks who are having some questions about international applications. So that has brought us right to 12:58. We thank everyone who was online today, especially our students and alumni. Sue, Cassie, Chad, could not have done this without you, could not be having sessions like this without hearing your experience, being learners and now leaders out in the world. So thank you for being here. From all of us, we wish you a very big thank you and a warm rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending when and where you are watching this recording. Have a good day, everyone.